Avoiding Civil War. Plus, Jimmy, Conservatives for Ukraine, and Johnny Anderson. Using words to confuse the truth or to advance a lie is a common political practice. We should be very strict when it comes to truth and falsehood. Charles Upton, who is now suffering from cancer, see his GoFundMe, explained how Russian philosopher Alexander Dugin has indulged in absurd contradictions and falsehoods for the sake of Russian power. This method of thinking, wrote Upton, on the basis of power rather than truth, is part of what Dugin means by power as the dispositive of violence, because the destruction of thought through intellectual cunning is also violence. There are many problems with lying. One of the chief dangers is self-deception. That is, the danger that you will believe your own lies. Take Kamala Harris as an example. She weirdly delights in her own delusional thinking. She embarrasses herself constantly, yet she is not apparently embarrassed. She seems to believe in her own rhetoric. That is, she believes in redistributing wealth. She wants an open border. She wants a woke military. She thinks abortion signifies freedom for women. As Upton noted, delusions of this kind reinforce a willful ignorance that entrenches selfishness. Here a politician tries to take the place of God through a pack of lies, spreading what will end in death for millions and nothing else. In this context, a young prodigy named Rudyard Lynch sees a civil war coming to America. He points to several historical markers: financial crisis, violent extremism, and decadence. Lynch knows an American civil war will be a right versus left conflict. Such will empower the extremists at the expense of the moderates. In other words, he is describing a revolutionary process more than that of civil war. He references the Roman Civil War, which was a revolution, and the wars of religion in the 1600s. This is what Lynch sees coming to America. In terms of winners and losers, Lynch gives conservatives, or the right, an 80% chance of winning a civil war. In my view, it all depends on how quick the war develops and whether Russia and China can effectively intervene. Setting Russia and China aside, Lynch is correct in saying that blue cities are like islands in a sea of red. They are leftist strongholds isolated from each other by vast stretches of anti-leftist territory. Lynch also recognizes that the lower ranks of the armed services are right of center. The left is therefore vulnerable on two major points. UC San Diego political scientist Barbara F. Walter, who is a left-of-center expert on civil wars and violent extremism, also thinks America is headed for civil war. I have mentioned her work in previous articles. She is not as insightful as Lynch, though she is better credentialed and has worked with the CIA task force. Her concern, of course, is threats to democracy, which tells me that she has not thought deeply about her own biases or the importance of checks and balances above democracy. Having read her book, it seems she has framed civil war as a danger coming from the right, which she characterizes as anti-democratic. For her, ideology rather than identity is the proper basis for a stable political order. If we all believe in the same ideology, ethnic and religious diversity will not be a problem. She enjoins us, then, to believe in a center-left ideology which turns a blind eye to the dangers of wokeism and the totalitarian left. Reading between the lines of her book, she appears to think we can mix peoples and religions together in a kind of fruit salad of peoples. This is somehow workable if we indoctrinate everyone with democratic slogans. She is opposed to identity politics, which she associates with the far right and far left, though what she considers to be far is more on the right than on the left. If I were to say that mixing populations is an invitation to civil war, she would counter my argument by proposing something akin to a liberal Titoism. But to make that work, she would have to rely on police power for unity. How long would that work? Using ideology to eradicate ethnic identity did not work under Tito, and it won't work in America. It is interesting that Rudyard Lynch and Barbara F. Walter represent two opposing views on the coming civil war in America. Lynch looks back many centuries to understand civil war, while Walter's presentism focuses on contemporary history. Lynch sees that men have been devalued by society, while Walter is a feminist. Lynch is on the right, yet he warns of dangerous extremism on the right and left. Walter is on the left and only sees danger on the right. Her reifications whitewash her favored party, heaping all blame on Donald Trump. Rather than science, What we have in Walter is the demonization of conservatives. She argues that civil wars are not the result of diversity, but are caused by states that are between democracy and authoritarianism. To be stable, she says, a regime must be fully democratic or fully authoritarian. She does not see that a so-called democratic society craves homogeneity, that too much diversity can destroy freedom. A human being is an individual who speaks a specific language, who has a specific skin color, who is brought up in a specific culture. There is no such thing as a culturally neutral human, unless that human has no heritage, no language, no skin color. People are tribal in the sense that they prefer their own kind, feel safer among their own, all other factors being equal. What kind of trust or national unity is possible between people who are ethnically, racially, and culturally different? Here we see the truth of the matter, namely, that people cannot be changed into ethnic neuters. The campaign to destroy American culture, or British culture, or French culture, by embracing a so-called multiculture, is not going to achieve anything positive. By nature, we reject what is alien to our own ways because we seek to preserve our identity, our language, our family structure, our heritage, our society. We do not want to break into pieces. We do not want to live as disassociated fragments or free-falling atoms. Where is the community in that? What happens with the common defense under that? Yet that is what the ideologists of the political left would impose on us. The tendency of each race, each religion, each ethnicity is to segregate. People choose to be with people who are like themselves, etc. A melting pot can be a good thing, within limits, but leftist ideology, in its destructionism, has gone past those limits. In doing this, leftism has proven to be a false doctrine. Using Marxism as a template, the critical race theorists have poisoned American society with the false promise that ethnic and racial differences can be entirely done away with. I believe that only a gradual organic process can mold various communities into one nation. Political agitation and state power will only strengthen racial tensions. In my view, the left uses the word diversity as a cudgel against society. In closing, it must be said that Americans are more accepting of racial and ethnic differences than other peoples in the world. Yet, the left would open old wounds and stir up old divisions. The left would bring in more and more Muslims when religious differences within a country are more dangerous to peace than racial differences. Consider what has happened in Great Britain, what is happening throughout Europe. Americans need to come together as best they can, but the Marxists do not want us to come together. They want to divide us. This is how they accumulate power for themselves. A divided society is a weak society. A people stewed in lies is powerless. Who benefits by this? The communists benefit. The Russians and Chinese benefit. The philosopher Joseph Piper offered a solution to the problem of false political ideology by way of 3 ideas. He said that we must perceive, as much as possible, all things as they really are. He said that men are nurtured, first and foremost, by the truth. He added that the natural habitat of truth is found in interpersonal communication. Truth lives in dialogue, in discussion, in conversation. It resides, therefore, in language, in the word. And so, we must take care to see things the way they really are, nurturing ourselves on the truth, discussing these things with each other.